This is the plain of Kerbala, an ordinary stretch of desert that would one day become one of the most remembered grounds in history. Decades earlier, in the sacred city of Mecca, lived a man who would one day walk that distant plain, Husayn, grandson of the Prophet, known for his piety, generosity, and unwavering sense of justice. He was known to feed the poor with his own hands, often at night, so that no one would know it was him. As the years passed, a new ruler rose to power, one whose conduct troubled many who valued justice. Husayn was asked to publicly pledge his loyalty, but his conscience would not allow him to support what he believed to be unjust. Rather than compromise his principles, he chose to leave his home city, seeking a path of peace and integrity. He was joined by his family and a small group of devoted companions, choosing to face whatever lay ahead together. Their small caravan set out across the vast desert, journeying toward a distant city that had called upon him for guidance. Along the way, troubling news reached them. Those who had invited him now faced pressure and fear, and support was fading. Despite the danger this news implied, Husayn chose to continue forward, guided by conviction rather than fear. Before long, their path was blocked by a much larger force, and the small caravan was directed toward an open plain. They made camp on the dry plain of Kerbala, pitching their tents beside a distant riverbank. Within days, the larger force encircled the camp entirely, cutting off any path of retreat. Soon after, access to the river was blocked, and the camp's water supply began to run dangerously low. In the camp, the days grew heavy with quiet worry, though composure and dignity never wavered. Husayn sent messengers seeking a peaceful resolution, but each attempt at dialogue was turned away. On the final night, Husayn gathered his loyal companions and family beneath a plain dark green banner. In the dim firelight, he told them plainly that they were free to leave under the cover of darkness without shame. Not one of them chose to leave. Each declared their devotion to remain by his side, whatever the cost. That night was spent in quiet prayer, each person making peace with what the coming day might bring. At dawn, the 10th day arrived, a day that would be remembered for all time. Husayn rode forward alone and addressed the opposing side, calling once more for restraint and justice. Two very different groups now faced each other across the wide, silent plain. As the day unfolded, dust began to rise across the distant plain, and the banner stood firm against the wind. One by one, his loyal companions stepped forward to defend the camp, each disappearing into the distant haze of the plain. Behind them, the tents remained standing, and the women and children waited in anguished, prayerful silence. The sun climbed higher, then began its slow descent, marking the passage of the longest day. By late afternoon, a profound stillness had settled over the plain, heavier than any silence before it. As the sun began to set, the banner slowly fell, and a heavy silence spread across the plain of Kerbala. When the dust finally settled, silence had replaced the sound of the wind across the empty plain. In the tents, the surviving family members held each other close, their grief immeasurable yet composed. Among those lost that day were beloved members of his own family, a sacrifice that would echo through history. Word of what happened at Kerbala spread swiftly across the land, reaching every corner of the Muslim world. Across cities and villages, people mourned deeply for a man known for his justice and sacrifice. Every year since, on the 10th day of Muharram, Muslims around the world pause to remember this day of sacrifice. In some traditions, this day is marked with mourning gatherings, recitations, and acts of charity in his memory. His story became a timeless symbol of standing firm for justice even when the cost is everything. Generations of scholars, poets, and ordinary people have drawn strength from his example ever since. The plain of Karbala itself became a place of pilgrimage, visited by millions seeking to honor his memory. His example reminds us that true courage often means standing for what is right, even when standing alone. To this day, his name is spoken with reverence, a lasting symbol of sacrifice, dignity, and unwavering faith. 14 centuries later, his story still moves people of every background to reflect on justice and sacrifice. Husayn's story teaches that principles are worth more than comfort, and that sacrifice for justice is never forgotten. What does standing up for what's right mean to you, even when it comes at a cost? Share your thoughts below. This has been a story of faith, dignity, and the enduring power of standing for what is right. We share these stories with the utmost respect for their significance to millions around the world. If this story moved you, we welcome you to explore more true sacred stories with us, always told with care. Subscribe and turn on the bell to continue this journey through history's most meaningful stories of faith.